Like, it says we're live, so we're hoping it's working. Let me
Not
check.
the first comment being IDing at the book.
Right. Like, I feel so bad for you already. Oh, let's see. Oh, it is working. Okay, we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the March Crusty Club Book Club Pig live show. I'm really excited because I have so much to say and I'm ready to see what everybody has to say. But today, before we decide and discuss, spoiler alert, I'm going to go ahead and announce the next couple of picks for the book club. In April, we are going to be reading Black Sun by Rebecca Roanworth. I'm really excited for this one. I've heard really good things. It's an adult fantasy. There's a lot of really cool elements in there, so I am ready. If you want to join us, this is the April pick. And then in May, we are going to be reading Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng, and this is literary fiction about a family. I'm really excited because Celeste Ng is like one of the best authors I've ever read from. So definitely join us for that in May. All the links to the book club socials and also the book club Discord are going to be in the description below. But now I'm going to go ahead and ask the co-hosts to introduce themselves and tell everybody what their favorite romance book at the moment is. And while they're doing that, if you have read the book, go ahead and put a pink heart in the comments so we can see how many people read with us this month. But now you guys can go ahead.
You didn't put that in the discussion questions, man.
I definitely did.
I did not see that, and I just copy and pasted it to myself.
I definitely did.
Okay, that's at the top. I started at number 1. It's fine.
Not but too busy not reading.
It's on brand. But I got my answer though, so it's fine.
Okay, go ahead. You first, Erin.
I think. Hi everyone, I'm Erin. My channel's Books and Busy. My favorite romance, I would have to say, is The Kiss Quotient. That's the romance that just lives rent free in my head all the time. I reread it a couple of times, and like it's just as good every single time that I read it. So, was that all I need to say? Okay, cool.
All right, I guess I'll go next. My name is Mina. My channel is called Mina Reads, and my favorite romance at the moment is At Your Age, Eve Brown, which is the final book in the Brown Sisters trilogy. I really love that book. It was so cute, and yeah.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Olivia. I'm just live for reading on Instagram, and similarly to Mina, my favorite right now is probably Take a Hint, Danny Brown. I think that's my favorite of the 3, but I've read all of them now.
Wow, cool. I will go ahead and say that my favorite romance at the moment is still The Kiss Quotient. Like, that was like the very first romance book I ever read, and it still is my favorite. Chef's Kiss. I could read it like every month and still be a 5-star read. So if you haven't read it, it's so good.
Michael is a man, okay?
Right. That book is just so good. If you haven't read it, you definitely should. And you should check out the other books that the other co-hosts mentioned. And also, if you want to follow them, which you should, all of their socials will be in the description down below. So you can go ahead and check out their channels or Bookstagram content. I see a lot of pink hearts, so that's super cool. Hello, I hope you're doing well in Florida. Lots of pink hearts. Okay, well, we're gonna go ahead and get into what our overall thoughts were. This is going to be a spoiler-free section, so if you haven't finished the book, you can definitely stay for this portion, and then I'll let you know when we get into spoilers. But everyone, go ahead and put your star ratings for the book in the comments, and then the co-host can go ahead and tell us what their ratings were and also what you guys thought about the book generally.
Who wants to go?
Anyone?
Mina, you can go first.
Okay. So on this reread, I rated it 4 stars. I still really liked it. I thought it was really funny. I really loved the characters, and their romance was really sweet. But I did think that some of it was like a little tiny bit cringe on reread, just a little bit. But like it's still really cute. So 4 stars.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm 4 stars. I might change by the end of this conversation because I always kind of arbitrarily change my ratings, but I think 4 as well. There's definitely like my favorite part was the relationship itself and like the two of them together. But yeah, some of the plot lines on the periphery I wasn't like the hugest fan of.
So this is a reread for me as well. My first read through, I gave it 4 stars. This read through, I didn't rate it because I'm kind of like a miserable hag right now. But on my reread, I think I noticed some things that kind of were inconsistent because with them being so old, not that like old, like super old, but she's 36, he's 40. So some of the conflicts just seemed kind of immature.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. That totally went over my head because I did not like. I remember at the beginning of the book, like reading that part, but then as the book kept going on, for some reason in my mind they were like in their 20s. So maybe what you're saying makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. She's 36, he's 40. But I still enjoyed it. My favorite part was I love the fandom bits about like Game of Thrones. It just made me want to read Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
But I also just love like the fat positiveness of it. That was just like the best part of the story for me.
Yeah. I really like that it's like the fandom is like modeled after Game of Thrones. I think like as someone who was a part of the Game of Thrones fandom, it was like very rewarding to see them like constantly talking about how bad the last season of Game of Thrones was. I just loved it. So
I didn't expect Game of Thrones to still like exist in the book though. When they mentioned it at the end, I was like, I thought this was Game of Thrones basically.
Yeah, I remember when Game of Thrones first came out and I was like, oh, okay, this seems like my type of TV show. And then I watched the first episode and never returned.
It's good. Honestly, I say it's worth it. Even with like the questionable things that happen in the questionable ending, overall, I think it's worth to watch. It's literally like some of the best TV that's ever been made.
Yeah, like reading this as somebody who hasn't watched Game of Thrones, I think I definitely saw it very differently where I was like, okay, this is kind of interesting because I know about Game of Thrones and I know about how much the fans hate the last season. So reading this and seeing them literally be like, that was horrible, I can't even believe it, was really interesting. I was like, this is a lot of tea. I love it here. And so like, I'm kind of with everyone who kind of said that the book was a little bit cringy and also that the characters kind of didn't act their age. So my rating right now is like a 3.5, but we'll see how it goes as we continue because I did really like the fat positive discussions and I really loved seeing the two characters together, but there were just certain portions that I was like, So yeah. So let's see. There's a lot of 3 stars. Yeah. Very funny if you're into Game of Thrones. Oh, this is nice. I feel like a lot of the people who read this book were probably Game of Thrones fans. Yeah.
It's easy to self-insert if you like Game of Thrones. Like you can just vent. It's like, oh yeah, Kit Harington thought it was trash. Daenerys thought it was trash. Like just you can just easily picture that.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's hard for me to imagine a 36-year-old woman being like, oh my God, my hobbies outside of work, my coworkers can't know about them. They're so secret and I'm afraid of losing my job because of what my coworkers think about what I do in my spare time that's not illegal.
Yeah, that part in the book is just like same.
Girl, you're a fan. That's it. Like
I was like, why is she acting like this is something illegal? Is some kind of crime? Like you literally like a TV show that's popular.
Exactly. And like it's just not that deep. And I feel like if this is supposed to be comparable to like Game of Thrones, like everybody knows what Game of Thrones is, even if you haven't watched it and you're not a fan. So there's nothing weird about saying like, oh, tonight I'm watching Game of Thrones. Like there's nothing weird about that. So I don't understand why it was such a big secret for her. Like it didn't make sense.
Such a job, like you had to change your job and take a pay cut because it was such a big deal for you. Like, girl,
right. Like that's like being like, I can't let my coworkers know I like Gossip Girl, therefore I'm gonna quit. What? What? I was like, girl, this what? Do they pay your bills? Do they literally?
Miss April was a little immature, which kind of was consistent throughout the story a little bit with how she handles some things.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting. What do you guys typically like in romance? Like, what are your favorite romance tropes? What kind of pulls you towards the story?
Enemies to lovers is a superior trope always.
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah. I haven't read a lot of like the few romances I've read, I've been recently getting into them, have been more like traditionally published ones. I definitely want to like, go back to some of Mina's videos and like find some more maybe indie published ones. But I do like enemies to lovers.
Fake dating.
Yeah, fake dating.
Mm.
I think my other favorite trope is like forced proximity. So like if characters like,
oh, I love that one,
or something like that. I love that trope. It's great.
I also like office romances because it also has that forced proximity thing as well. And it's like, oh, it's a secret, we're gonna keep it from work. And it's just like, it has so many elements that kind of push things along in the narrative in the office romance. So I really like that.
I think I really, really enjoy the like neighbors romances, like when people live next door to each other or that type of thing. And I also like the roommate situation. I think that's always really funny. That's another one. Friends to lovers. That one's always cute, especially when it's slow burn. But I feel like a lot of romance novels don't really have that slow burn element. You know?
Is Erin okay? What is she looking at?
I don't know if y'all can hear it, but there's like this really loud, like it's like 80 degrees where I'm at. So like people are on their motorcycles and they're like doing the things in the street, making all the noise. So I'm like, it's
oh no.
Am I gone? Did I
No, you're fine now. I was like, not Erin leaving. Yeah, fake dating is really good. I think fake dating almost, for me, it almost always ends up in like a really enjoyable read. Enemies to lovers can be a hit or miss, but I think that always ends up really well. This one's good too. Ooh, beach read.
I actually even love this more when it's the reverse. When it's the grumpy girl and the guy is just like sweet as pie.
I can't think of anything that's like that right now. Can I? No, I can't think of anything that
I didn't like it, but Danny was kind of like that to me. That's how I read Danny.
That's true. That's true.
I feel like Act Your Age, Eve Brown is more of that, like a grumpy guy and a sunshine girl. I feel like Zaf is not like grumpy. He's just not like super.
No, Danny is the grumpy one to me.
Yeah.
And Zaf is like rainbows and sunshine.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I do think that Act Your Age is very much that.
That trope, yeah.
Very much that. And it's so good. Okay. Slow burn. Yeah, there's only one romance that I can think of that's like a slow burn. But
I need cheek clapping at the 30% mark. I can't do slow burn.
I am not a slow burn kind of girl.
That's why I don't like friends to lovers, because we are 75% and they're still fighting their feelings for each other. I'm like, come on.
No, okay. I'm just gonna say, in some instances, if they don't spend romance slow burn, I see very, very differently, because romance, you need to have some sort of speed to it. So the slow burn that I see in romance is very different. For example, there's Gray Hair Don't Care, to me, is slow burn, and it's also Friends to Lovers, because they've been friends since they were in their 20s, and then they're not together until they're like in their 50s, but there's time gaps. So it's like slow burn because it took them so long to be together, but it's also Friends to Lovers, but it's also fast. If like, you know what I mean? So with romance, if it's too slow, then it's definitely not fun. But I would recommend Gray Hair Don't Care if you like slow burn. Okay. What did you guys think about the main characters? April and Marcus.
I really like both of them.
Marcus is my baby. I love him.
Right.
When he would go to his parents' house, I would be ready to fight. Y'all not gonna talk to him like that. Y'all are wrong. He is sweet as pie. When he was playing stupid at the restaurant, like he didn't understand. He's like sweet as beans.
He was just so awesome. Oh, by the way, we're getting into spoilers. I could have just said that, but I didn't want to interrupt Erin. So we're getting into spoilers. I was like,
you
she's
clicked that like
really
it
in
wasn't
her
you.
mode. You were in your zone talking about Marcus, so it was like, let her speak before she says anything. But yeah, we're getting into spoilers. But the part where Marcus was standing at like his house, and he was standing in the dining room, and his friends were like talking and doing their thing, and he just felt like an outsider. I felt so bad. Like, I loved his character so much, and anytime he was sad, I was like, no.
I felt like he was such an interesting, complex character, and I just love that so much. Like, what a king! I just love him so much.
There were just so many elements.
Feelings.
And there were so many parts of his character that just felt very whole. Like, he wasn't perfect. He made mistakes. He had like a lot of times where he was like, okay, I did something wrong. Like when April posted about how people talk about fat characters in their fan fiction, and he was like, oop, I have definitely been sharing all these fat phobic stories. I was like, this man.
Yeah, I also really like the professional bit from him, where he was like, technically he's really, really successful, but he still has insecurities around his own profession, even though he's like literally on the biggest show on TV. He's like, so I'm like, that was nice to see.
I love the parts where they talk about like his previous roles and like all the
right.
And then that was so funny.
The sniffer?
I love those
Sharknado,
parts.
bro. That was
amazing.
Yeah, no, it was so funny because I think a lot of times people think about celebrities or they think about people who are famous. The thought is, oh, this person has always felt secure in what they're doing. They have so much confidence. They have so many successful things. But seeing it from the point of view of somebody who has, made those movies and is in the limelight, it was just so interesting to see the things that he was insecure about. And I was like, I love it here.
I feel like we don't get enough of that from men in romance stories or in stories in general. Like, they're always super confident, or whatever. And it's like, no, he's like extremely handsome, wealthy, successful, but he's like still a regular person.
Yeah. And he knows he's handsome. Sorry, go ahead, Olivia.
No, go ahead. I was just gonna say, like, I feel like because of that and because he was such a like whole person, the conflict, it wasn't like, sometimes I get frustrated when the conflicts are just like, oh, he just doesn't want to share his feelings, but it didn't feel like he had these like actual like strong motivations, and like, but he was still thinking about it in a way that was like, he's aware, he's self-aware of these things and he knows they're bad sometimes. It's not just like, I just don't want to tell my feelings.
Yeah, I really appreciated that too. There was like a lot of self-awareness in the characters. So I think that made the conflict make more sense to me. Because sometimes romance conflict just be so stupid.
It's out of nowhere. Yeah.
And I feel like it really made sense this time. Like the reason that he was hiding the fact that like he knew her and that they used to talk in that like fan fiction forum or whatever, because it makes sense. Like he could literally lose his job for this. And so I understood like the stakes for him and why he didn't want to reveal that to her. And I feel like it just made sense. And I think that the author did a good job of like explaining his reasonings.
Yeah, and I really liked that. Going back to what Erin said, I really liked that Marcus, he knew he was attractive. Like, he was like, I am drop dead gorgeous. I got the muscle. I got the skill. But at the same time, he was aware of his insecurities. Because I feel like people just think that, like, if you're hot, then you're just hot and that's it. You never think about anything that makes you insecure. But he was like, oop, I could do better here. I could do better there. So I just really, really liked that.
I also loved hearing him talk about his dyslexia and his struggle with that, and like how excited he was to be able to read something finally, and like discovering audio. That just, as a reader, obviously, but like that just little subsection of like struggling with something for so long, and then finally finding a way to make it work for you, and like overcoming like adversity in your own life that people aren't aware of. It's like, wow, his whole job requires him to do a ton of reading, and then this thing is really difficult for him. And how it came out, with the script and like the interview where he was like what do you call it? The golden retriever or whatever. And it was like, well, that was his safety because, he messed up. It's just like,
yeah. What did you guys think about April though? Because I see a lot of comments talking about how people like loved how confident she was and like in her job being career focused and things like that. But what did you guys think about her character?
I liked April. I liked that she was very like, I don't know, she just knew what she wanted. And I think that one of my favorite things about her was like, in that first date scene between them, when she's like,
Mhm.
man, I cannot stand him. Like, this conversation is
Right.
with me. Think it over. I feel like that was so interesting and so refreshing, because I feel like a lot of times when you have like a romance, the characters are just like immediately sprung for each other. And I feel like if it was any other romance, she would just been obsessed with him, even if they had the most fun.
Especially since he's a celebrity.
Yeah.
I like that she really treated it like a real date, and like, you know, he's just a guy. I really appreciate that. And I think that her self-worth and her confidence made her a more interesting character. But some of the comments are talking about like April jumping to conclusions, and I do feel like jumping to a lot of conclusions.
Yeah, that's
I feel like April wasn't as confident as she let on, which I mean is realistic. Like you really think you're on it until something happens and you get triggered real quick.
Yeah.
Like the whole you know, somebody mentioned it, the oatmeal breakfast thing. Like, my man is, you see the body, sis. You know he ain't get it by accident. Okay, it clearly requires work. And she's like, well, what do you eat? Of course he's gonna, why would I work out and then eat a terrible meal right after? That doesn't even make sense. And like, if she was thinking logically, she was like, oh, okay, yeah, sure. But clearly...
With April's character, I can see, like, I both liked and didn't like her, because I loved, especially because April is fat, I love the fact that she went on that date, because a lot of the perceptions about fat women, especially when dating, is that anybody who literally smiles at you, like, you should be grateful because they're smiling at you or they're taking you on a date, which I feel like is the general message, especially when you see fat women with men who are like conventionally attractive and like fit. The thought is always like, oh, well, she, like, he must, you know what I mean? And so I feel like the fact that she went on that date, she was like, I kind of want to leave. Like, and then she like rejected the second date. I really loved that, because I just hate when in movies and books and whatever, there's this message like, oh, because you're fat, you better be thankful that somebody with abs is like talking to you, you know? So I really liked that. But then again, with what Aaron and Mina said, was like, the fact that the whole conversation and also the comments, like when he started talking about what he was eating and like his workout routine and things like that, when he asked her, oh, do you want to like exercise with me? I understand why she reacted the way she reacted, but at the same time, like, this man clearly exercises.
Yeah.
You know?
I feel like it made sense to me. I do get how it was like a little obnoxious, but I think it made sense to me because a lot of it seemed like she was working really hard to have this like internal confidence, but then so much of what she was still uncomfortable with was like the way external forces were like treating her, so like her parents. So then to like be afraid that like, oh, maybe Marcus is gonna treat her the same way her parents were, in those like little comments and stuff like that. I think it made sense to me, but I do see how it would be annoying.
Yeah, no, it definitely
I feel like
makes
by
sense
age 36, you should be able to be like, hey, you know what, actually...
Yeah, that's the part I was going to say.
That makes me uncomfortable, or why are you asking me that? Because there are plenty of fat people that work out. Like, they're not working out to get skinny, they work out because they enjoy it, because it's cathartic, or, you know, because they, you know, like, being in shape or being fit. Like, I know y'all seen like the ads or like the plus size people that do like this crazy yoga and stuff like that. Like, that doesn't mean because you're fat you don't work out. So I'm inviting you to do something with me. And so I feel like by 36, or communication should be at a point where you can just ask a question and not have miscommunication be that big of a thing.
Yeah, I definitely understand her being like, when you asked me to work out because of fat, what's going on? Why did you mention this? Like, you know, I understand that, especially because, you know, as somebody who does like her fan fiction writing and then the cosplay situation, it's understandable to be like, what's the agenda here? But I definitely agree with what everyone's saying. What everyone's saying makes total sense.
Yeah, maybe if they'd been aged down a little bit, because like, yeah, coming from it, I understand it, but I'm also coming from being like, you know, oh yeah, my 21-year-old brain gets it.
Right, like, right. Because I was thinking like, okay, early 20s, I totally understand. I'd probably be like, why? But then like Aaron's point is super, super important to think about too. Yeah, the conflict did make sense.
I do think that the author did try to like contextualize the way that she would come to these certain conclusions, though, because in that scene when she like immediately freaks out about the workout thing, she thinks about like a previous relationship that she had where the guy, like, you know, he acted like he was into her and he liked her and her body and everything, but then he immediately was like, okay, let's start dieting, let's start working out and stuff like that. So I really understood how it was like a trigger for her. And I think that the author did a good job of like making her thought process make sense, even if it was kind of frustrating at times.
Yeah, no, I definitely, because when I was reading that, I thought about a specific situation personally, and I was like, wait, not this, because I was like, is he about to date her and then be like, do you want to exercise? But like, you knew what I looked like when you asked me out. Like,
I've been there.
Yeah,
I like
exactly.
that April was fat, like fat. She wasn't like size 12, flat stomach, big butt, fat. She was like dimpled knees, cellulite, fat, and like it was described in detail on multiple occasions.
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, like, you know, there's like the conventional, like I think y'all have seen on Twitter like the last couple of days where it's like Calvin Klein or somebody had their first like plus size model, she's like a size 12 or whatever, and like there's nothing wrong with that. Go for her, but like April was like actually fat. In the art description that she was fat, she talked about being fat. She called herself fat. Like, it's not a negative thing. It's just an adjective that describes my body.
Yes. When she explained why she was like, I don't call myself fat as an insult. That's literally just a descriptor. Don't think about it too deeply. Like, oh, that was just so good. And then, yes, the fact that she was literally described as what a lot of fat women who are ignored in society are described as. Because when people are like, oh, this person is plus size, right? Or when they're fat. And then you go into like, to look at what they're talking about. And it's somebody who literally does not represent you and the majority of fat people that you know at all. And you're like, what's going on here? Like, I remember on TikTok, somebody had posted something about like the plus size community or like fat women. And everybody that they had like talked about and advertised was like a size 8. And I was like, what's going on here? Like, okay, but like there's more, you know what I mean? So it's definitely really good that was like, hey, I'm not this, like I'm fully, this is all of me, you know? Really loves that aspect. Did you guys think there were any like characters in the book that you could see yourself being friends with? Like if you knew them in real life, you would like them, or people that if you knew them in real life, you would hate their guts?
Alex. Who doesn't want to be friends with Alex?
Right.
So bad. I want us to have a friends to lovers arc actually, because Alex, I love him.
Isn't the sequel about him?
Yes.
I didn't even know the sequel.
Me neither.
The cover is so cute, and Lauren is fat on the cover too.
Right.
She's short and fat, and I was like,
the cover is so cute.
I literally found out about the sequel 2 days ago.
That cover artist can do no wrong.
Right. Like the covers alone are gonna keep me reading till the series is over, because I was like when I thought about this question, that's who I was thinking about. I was like, I want to be his friend so bad.
Can we just have a quick moment to talk about romance covers and how some of them are really bad, like just not good at all? And it's just upsetting. So that's why I'm obsessed with this new cover artist, Lenny Kaufman. I've been seeing her do a lot of covers recently. She also did the cover for Gray Hair Don't Care. And like, I love
that cover.
Yes, she is so talented. I love her so much.
This makes, if I see this on the shelf, I'm like, I'm picking that up.
Right.
Because it's pretty. And I see like what it's telling me and what it's showing me match up.
Exactly.
So like it says it's supposed to be a plus size person on the cover. Bam. And like I appreciate that, because I feel like so often the person in the book is described one way, but the cover art doesn't look like that.
Yeah, I even like going back to Mina's point, I think a lot of times when I see covers, when I see them, I can't think of any covers except this one, and maybe that's because this is just fresh in my mind right now, that has like a visibly fat woman on the cover.
One to watch, I guess.
Next book. What?
Hate that. I said one to watch, I guess, but I hate that book. So
yeah, that one too, or maybe like also Talia Hibbert's book.
Yeah.
Also those, but I just really like that this is like zoomed in, honey. Like you can see what the body is.
Detail in those.
You see the rolls, honey.
Right.
I feel like a lot of other covers, they're like very cartoony, and you can't really feel like the details or see the details of like the characters, what they're supposed to look like and stuff. So I love that this was like a really detailed, pretty cover. It helped me imagine what the girl was supposed to look like, and I just loved it. I hope
Yeah.
there's
Like when
more
Aaron
covers.
first recommended this book to me, and I went on Google to look at the cover, I literally zoomed in and I was like, hello. I literally was like, is that a gin? Are they dimples? I was like, you know what? I love it here. I love it here. Like, I don't even buy books like new that often, but as soon as she recommended it, I was like, I'm gonna have this on my shelf. I don't care what I think about the book. Yeah, I've seen the UK cover, and I'm so sorry for you. I'm really sorry.
The US one.
Yeah, right. Like for
this
one,
like,
it's like
the
pink,
UK cover,
and she's like sitting down, or
it
doesn't give you like the fan fiction vibes either.
Oh.
You could tell he's on something. He's not walking around the streets looking like that.
Not that. I think like another thing too, like it doesn't even look like what we're told.
Oh.
I feel like the cover of this one is giving fangirl.
It's giving.
It definitely reminds me of something else.
Yeah.
Like
It doesn't.
Let me look up Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. It's the same exact cover. They just repositioned where the guy is standing in. But it's the same,
Wait,
like girl. Like
Fangirl?
I don't know if you can really see it, but like
I know what you're talking about.
Peter and the guy, I feel like they're wearing a similar outfit. He's just in a different
Yeah.
So that cover is like, oh, they're writing fan fiction together. This cover is she's cosplaying Lavinia and he's Aeneas or whoever.
Right. And I also really love the reference to the Bay Area in the cover of the US edition. Like the bridge is in the background. There's trees. Those expensive apartments. I'm triggered.
Are you triggered?
I'm thinking about the cost of my apartment. I'm seeing flashbacks of my bank account. When she was talking about moving from Sacramento to, was it Berkeley that she moved to? Wherever it was in the Bay that she moved to. I was like, no! You don't want that Sacramento rent? All because you don't want to tell your coworkers that you write fanfiction. I was like, absolutely not.
Exactly.
I cannot believe it.
No sense.
Right. Would you guys date? Okay. Would you date somebody who is famous? If you're not famous, or like where you are now, not Aaron. Aaron said it so quick.
Girl, why wouldn't I? What's the reason?
Really? Like a famous actor of this level, you would date them?
Yeah.
I'm not understanding your reluctance, Queen.
I just
where are the cons?
Well, there's like that part at the end where like the girl is asking like, are you still together? And like all of the weight on her shoulder being like,
right,
a person who looks like her and being with a person like that would just be so stressful. Like I don't want to be thought of as like representing what this type of couple could be.
Yeah, and then like also the part where that girl was like, oh my God, if you guys ever broke up, like blah, 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 blah. And then April like wanting to tell the truth about the situation, but then also being like, he's a nice guy. Like,
He is.
Like, he is a nice guy, but I'm like talking about what if you did a famous person that was literally horrible to you, and then people were like, oh my God, finally a couple that looks like.
What do you mean?
Girl, I'm gonna be at Oprah. We're gonna be 6 feet apart, and we're gonna have our little chat.
Not TMZ. Mina said, I'm going straight to the gossip channel.
Ain't one random house gonna buy my tell-all. What do you mean?
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
It's looking like you're gonna say no, Chanel. Is that what I'm hearing? No?
I don't think I could date somebody who is famous. I think it would be too much pressure for me because I like prefer my relationships to be private, and I prefer to just deal with things like in a way that like, okay, that was cool.
But like, there are people in relationships with famous people that you don't know about. Like, there are people who are very open and with their relationship, and there are people who aren't.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but I'm saying like if you were in this type of situation where when you're going to dinner, like the paparazzi's out here,
get the flicks, baby.
Get them. But like not Aaron picking the gnocchi, not Aaron picking.
And I'll be in the comments, and it was good. And what about it? You wish your man was buying dinner, don't you? While you're home alone, cold, single, eating ice cream, hating on me. That would be me.
Not the ice cream.
You and your Ben and Jerry sis. Worry about yourself.
Not me zooming into every single picture of Aaron being like, is that pineapple?
And it was.
That's wild. I think I'd be like, what if I want to fight and the fans come for me? I can't. I cannot be fighting with your 15-year-old fans.
I got time today and every day, honey. You know why? Because my man said I don't have to work.
And you already have the man. Like, he's already yours. I'm not fighting with no 10-year-old on Instagram about it.
We ain't gonna fight, but I'm gonna let you know that I'm not the one.
You wish that was you, huh?
Listen, let me go write some fan fiction. Maybe my king is waiting on me somewhere in the chat. Hopefully he's not an incel. Like, let's fingers crossed.
No, the way when I was reading this, I was thinking, like, if I were to date an actor, who would I pick? And I couldn't think of a single person.
No, it's Centennial. That's what you want, huh?
That's you. No. Absolutely not.
You
Aaron
love that
is
man.
the Noah Centennial fan. Absolutely not. The receipts speak differently.
Give me a nice John David Washington. He come from a good home. Denzel be my father-in-law. Wouldn't that be fantastic? Yeah. Little David.
Oh my god. I can't. That was too funny. Now people saying this is my favorite.
Aaron's impact.
I can't, man. That was so funny. What about it? Oh my god. I guess we all also kind of agree and understand Marcus keeping the secret about, him being the fan fiction writer from April, right? And also his fame. Because I feel like it made total sense. His job was on the line,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was so tense about it, though. I was like, what are you going to do? Like, how is this going to resolve itself?
Right.
Like, it was gonna, but I was like, what?
Like,
even when it came out, I felt so bad.
Yeah.
Right.
In the car, I just felt him like...
When he cried, but he didn't want her to see him cry because he was like, that's manipulative.
I love him so much.
He said, I love you, and this is not what I want, but I'm going to just respect your wishes, bro.
Yeah,
and then he went home to his house.
Like, this is the one time I can think of in a romance book. Somebody's talking. Is it TMZ calling?
The hotline blinging.
Mina's about to book her tell-all. No, you're good, Mina. No, I was saying that this is the one time that I can think of in a romance book where I have fully understood someone keeping secrets, because his fan fiction account and everything was like a safe space for him, like somewhere where nobody knew who he was. And then because of the pressure of his job too, I just felt like, oh my gosh. And I thought that the conflict was going to be way bigger, like actually when he told her, and then it was like a big deal, but also it didn't feel like things were never going to be okay. You know what I mean? Like, it felt like, I'm glad you told her and now we can move forward. So it was super good.
I think the way he handled it was very mature. I feel like the stakes for him were really, really high because they are. This is like legal stuff. Like your career, your everything is on the line. And also, I think it was a bit unrealistic of Miss April because she's like, you should know that I wouldn't do this, or I wouldn't share it. I'm like, but also if we're using the you should know also X, Y, and Z about him. You should know that he wouldn't have, done this and been manipulative and all of this, like whatever. It's like, yeah, y'all are still getting to know each other, but this is my career. This is something that could ruin me, especially with what happened with Alex. Like, could be the end for me. I could be blackballed. Like, this is more than just.
Yeah. Wait. Because also, what confused me a lot about April's anger about the situation was the fact that she literally quit her job and moved because of her fan fiction secret, not wanting anyone to know. But she doesn't understand that a whole celebrity whose job is on the line, like, didn't tell her when he barely knew. Like, if we're being honest, he barely knows you, like, the you in person. So why would he be like, oh, by the way, this is my Stan account. Don't tell anyone, though.
I really like the fact that, like, when he finds out that it's her, he immediately, like, cuts off that online relationship, so he's not, like, violating her space in that way. Like, I appreciated that. I knew that he couldn't come forward because, like, as we said, his job is on the line. Like, he could be literally sued for saying that, you know, oh, this season is terrible. Because that's the kind of stuff he was saying in their group chat. So he could be sued for that kind of information if that could be tracked back to him. So to me, it makes sense why he didn't tell her, why he felt uncomfortable about it, or whatever the case may be. But I appreciated that he immediately kind of cut off that other avenue of communication, because I think it would have been wrong for him to just keep talking to her, knowing that it's her, and, like, lying. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no. And she was like, you used the information against me.
He didn't, though. He literally
you can't
was like,
unknow.
Gotta go buy. And the thing
I
is,
just happen to know you, girl.
The fact that he was willing, and I feel like I really understood him in that time, like his pain, because what I feel like April didn't think about was the fact that he literally removed himself from a safe space that he had created for over 2 years, right?
Yeah.
Like, imagine meeting somebody in real life and you like them, and then you remove all your work for 2. That's like, imagine you meet someone and you literally deleted your channel or something because you met. Like, that's a huge deal. So I feel like April just didn't even consider that at all, which kind of like,
This is interesting. Okay, Morgan in the comments says that this is basically manipulation, the fact that he kept that from her for so long, which I think is interesting. I mean, I didn't see it.
So long is relative, because it wasn't that long. It was maybe 2 months.
I feel like it was a short amount of time, but I understand. But I also think that it's difficult to be like, oh, because what was he supposed to say when they first went on that date? And he found out right on that date, because she also was like, oh, I don't want to see you another time. So it was kind of like, what do you do in that situation, you know? But I understand.
I feel like he didn't know anything about her that was, like, personal or anything. Like, he knew that she liked fan fiction. He knew that they were in the same fandom and, like, they read each other's fan fiction, like, you know. But to me, it didn't seem like he knew all of this intimate personal information that he was utilizing to further their relationship in real life. Like, it didn't feel like that to me at all.
And also, we can admit, and also kind of April kind of alluded to it a bit, that, like, had that come out in any other circumstance, it wouldn't have been as big a deal as it was coming off the heels of what happened with her family. And the way he told her was literally, he just said, you know, I know you've been fat shamed or something like that before. And she was like, hold on. I've made it a point not to tell you that. So and it was because they were already in the car and she was already, like, super triggered that it made it worse than what it was.
Yeah, I think he picked a really bad time to say that. So if it was at a different moment, she might have had a different reaction. But speaking of reactions, throughout reading the book, how did you guys feel? Was it like pure joy? Mina's laughing. Yes, my segue. So good.
So smooth.
That was so smooth. Anyway,
speaking of reactions.
While you were reading it, what feelings did you have? Because I know that the very first time that Erin read this, she was like, oh my God, amazing, I'm so happy, blah, 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 blah. So, how did you guys feel?
For me, it was a really fun experience, just on all levels, because I really liked them as a couple. I really enjoyed the characters, particularly Marcus. I thought that, like, all of the different excerpts of, like, the fan fiction or, like, the excerpts from the scripts from his, like, past movies, I thought all that stuff was, like, hilarious, and all the little nods to Game of Thrones and everything was fun. So for me, it was just a really joyful experience, and I loved it personally. So yeah, no complaints.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like I was a little skeptical about the, like, fandom part, because I don't really know that much about that, like, element of things. But I think, like, reading this, and then also, like, for one of my classes, I have to do a fandom project. So, like, going into it with that lens too just made it more fun. And I agree. I like that it wasn't just like their fan fiction. I like that it was also the past scripts of like the terrible movies he was in. Those made it really funny.
Yeah.
It was very fun. Like I'm going off mainly my first time reading it. I had a lot of fun. It made me want to pick up Game of Thrones and rewatch that. Like the nostalgia, it had a lot of nostalgia kind of built into it because I love Game of Thrones so much. And then it also made me feel like as a plus size woman, it just made me feel really good because like Marcus was hella sexy in the book, and here I have a on page, on cover, visibly, audibly, overtly fat woman who is like being loved out loud in this way. And like he couldn't keep his hands off my good sis when they were in the little observatory, when they were in the museum. Like his attraction was so believable to her. I was like, John, trying to take me on a date.
Right? I was like, when? Literally,
I want to go feel a fake earthquake.
Not the earthquake.
Come on, let's go get some coconuts. That's what I felt like. I was like, come on now, all right. Where's my Marcus? So, you know, it made me feel really good.
The entire time I was reading this, I cannot think of a single moment where I was like unhappy or like I felt disgusted or sad or like what's going on here. I just genuinely, all my feelings were positive. The only thing that I was also skeptical about is the fandom part and also the Game of Thrones aspect. I thought, like, as somebody who hasn't watched the show, I was like, am I going to understand what they're talking about? Like, am I going to be confused? But to be honest, this makes me want to read the books, like the series. This makes me, like, I don't think I'm going to watch the show, but it makes me want to read the books because I was like, wait a minute.
I literally ordered the book afterwards.
Right? Because I'm like, wait, maybe it's time. Maybe this is the sign. Because it was just so good. And like just seeing April and Marcus like fall in love in such a way that was like, okay, we like each other. Like, I'm not going to hide this woman that I'm dating. You know what I mean? It was really great, especially because this and One to Watch are the only books that I can think of where like the main character's fatness was the forefront. And One to Watch made me so upset after I finished it. It was like I was there for the tea, but the book just made me. I remember finishing One to Watch, and I felt so sad. Like I genuinely cried after reading that book because I was like, this book makes me feel gross, like about myself. And so, like finishing this, I was like, me next.
I read those two in the same week, and the two experiences were so different.
Right. And like I recently also know that in like the Discord for the book club, people talked, like we talked about this book and also in relation to One to Watch. And I was like, I have heard that this is like after this you're gonna feel happy. And I genuinely did. I was like, does Marcus have a cousin somewhere that's similar to him that could exist in real life? Please.
Like, oh, One to Watch is realistic, and I'm like, realistic doesn't have to be bad, sweetheart. Like that's not what that means.
Like One to Watch is very realistic, but if I remove the elements of the reality show drama and like how juicy the tea in the, you know what I mean? Like when you watch reality shows, it's like a train wreck. If I remove those elements from One to Watch, it's a book that I don't think I would ever recommend, especially to like a fat person who wants to feel joy reading about romance. No. So this one though, yes. But I just really felt so happy, and after reading it, I was like, time to go and check out Game of Thrones. It's so good.
Somebody said One to Watch, more like One to run away from. It was terrible. The romance is not good. It made me feel awful reading it.
Yeah.
The author just like hates her main character. Death threats, rape threats.
One to Watch.
Oh my god!
Like I'm not gonna give any spoilers to that because I'm sure there are people who enjoyed it or want to read it, whatever. But the ending of One to Watch, it just felt very like lukewarm and watery. I was like, is this supposed to be a happy ending? So I was like pretending. I literally just pretended it was just tea. I was like, that's a total drama island.
It was pitiful. Everything about that book was pitiful. The romance, pitiful. The love interest, pitiful.
Like the only positive thing I can think of about One to Watch, besides the dramatic elements, was that there was ace representation, and that's it. I can't think of anything else. So yeah.
That was nice.
But anyways, that was nice because I was like, you don't ever see stuff like this in like a romance book. So I really, really liked that there was an ace character. What did you not like about the book? Like, are there any things that you feel like you really wish were different in the book, that you wish the author had gone more into or hadn't gone into, that we haven't already discussed? And people in the comments, you can go ahead and put those as well.
I mean, we kind of already mentioned this, but I do feel like some of the fandom elements, they didn't make sense. Like, I enjoyed the fandom elements that were talking about, like, how it's a community and it's like a place where you can share joy with other people. I really like those aspects, but I didn't like the way that it was like, it felt like it kind of consumed April's personality in some ways, and she didn't realize that, like, it's perfectly okay and regular to tell people that you like a TV show, that you enjoy it, that it's something that you like, you know, enjoy. There's nothing wrong with that, and that's not something that needs to be like a huge deal. So I feel like some of it was a bit melodramatic, and I didn't love some of those elements. Especially, I didn't like it near the end of the book where it was like there was more melodramatic stuff in the end, where it's like what's it called? I don't know. They're like big love confession at the convention. I did not like that scene. I did not like that scene at all. Public declarations of love creep me out.
If you think about it, April didn't have any friends.
Yeah, she
Only
didn't.
friends were the people at work and the people online. So I feel like the storyline and the age don't make sense. If they had all been aged down a decade, it would have, at least for April, it would have made a lot more sense if she was 26 and she was struggling with like her identity as a person, because outside of the fandom, April ain't had no interest.
Yeah, I think like one thing that I really did not like, kind of going into what Mina said, is so with Marcus's character, you can understand and feel that he's a whole person, even outside of acting, outside of the fandom. He feels like genuinely this is a person who is all of these things and an actor, all these things and a fan fiction writer. But I feel like with April, we got like a little bit of a view of her like geologist career in the beginning. I think that's what she was doing, right? And so we kind of got that. And so I thought there would be more elements learning more about her and her interests outside of the TV show. And so when it came to her being like, oh, I don't want to tell my coworkers that I like this thing, I was like, what can you talk about with your coworkers that, you know, isn't like embarrassing, you know? Like, I just felt like she just made it seem like her entire personality was this TV show. So then it was hard to see her outside of that. And it was hard to get a feel for what type of person she was, which then made me feel like, okay, April is just only this. And I feel like she was more than that. And I wish we had got to see more of her outside of that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. What do y'all think of like epilogues in general in romance? I feel like they're kind of divisive sometimes. Did you like this one?
I don't know. I mean, I think that epilogues can be cute, but it really depends. In this case, it was okay. It was fine. You know,
the epilogue in this one was just all right. It didn't really. It was just fine. But I think usually I feel very lukewarm about them. Like, it's the only epilogues that I've ever really felt like yes are the ones in the Kiss Quotient and the Bride Test. Those two, I was like, yes! One in Kiss Quotient, I was on the floor. I was like, because to me, an epilogue that is good is an epilogue that really gives me a clear picture of what's happening afterwards. And it feels like enough time that has passed. Like, the characters are maybe pursuing something completely new that in the entire book they've been considering pursuing. Like, what's the point of an epilogue if it's literally going to be the exact same discussion that we had in the whole book? That's just an extra chapter.
Yeah.
But I feel like epilogues are supposed to give me a different feeling, you know? So usually I'm like lukewarm about them. I don't hate them, but they just don't do much for me.
This epilogue, I really didn't care about. I care about who was leaking his scripts, honey. I didn't care.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Yeah, great. The E-Wade part was cute, I guess.
Mm.
With the rest, I was like, I could have did without that. Actually,
Yeah.
Did you guys have any favorite scenes while you were reading the book? Because I know Aaron mentioned that earthquake. But what were like some scenes that like really got you, or that you're like while you were reading?
I really. Ooh, go ahead, Chanel.
I thought you were still thinking, Mina. I go first while you guys think, because I have one. I really liked when they went to the museum, I think, and then Marcus was reading something, and then he got really nervous, and he was like, "It's gonna take me a while." And April was just like, "Okay," and then she was just like there, So I felt like that was really considerate, and so that was one of my favorite scenes. And that's like the only thing that really stuck with me after reading the book. That I was like, ah! But yeah.
one of my favorite scenes was when Alex was like, "Does Cupid really give you bottom energy?" And everybody was like, "Absolutely." He's like, "All right." And the little scenes when he was writing, getting pegged. He was at the conference, and he was like, "You can find me at XOXO Gossip Girl. Get with it. Explicit content. Mic drop."
Yeah, I did really like that scene in the end of the book, but I feel like one of my favorite scenes, like emotional scenes, it wasn't even about the couple, but it was like Marcus when he was visiting his parents. I feel like it just like it made me feel so many things about Marcus as a person, and like where a lot of his insecurities and stuff stem from. And I feel like it just made me feel like I understood him so deeply as a character. So I really love that scene. Like one of the most emotional moments for me personally.
Yeah.
Also, that first date.
The what?
First date.
That first date was iconic.
Yeah.
Their inner monologues were hilarious.
Yeah. Yeah, I really liked too that just Alex being just the supportive friend throughout, and then all of a sudden he's just like, wait, I'm actually gonna get into fan fiction too. And that all of the stories were so funny.
I think another scene, now that I'm thinking about it, that I really, really liked, even though it was really painful to see, was, again, going back to when I mentioned Marcus eating with his parents, and then going into like his past as a child and how he was treated. That made me so sad, and it really made me think about how much how you're raised really impacts how you are as an adult. And I feel like people don't realize that enough, because Marcus like wants so badly to, be close to his parents, but just always feels so left out, especially with their whole like Greek and Latin or whatever it was, like teaching. That professor was so annoying.
I want to go upside Marcus's mama's head.
The way that they wrote that article, like they wrote an article about how bad his TV show was. I was like, what kind of parents are you? Like, even if you hate the show, why would you write a whole article and put your name on it? Everybody know that you're his parents and be like, yep, it was terrible.
Right. Like, why would you? Can't you just be embarrassed in private? Like, if you hate his acting, can't you just keep it to yourself? Like, you're gonna publicly tell everyone that your son is a disgrace. I was like,
Child, Marcus better than me, because I would have cussed them out real quick. I mean, they were literally acting like he was 40 at this point, and they're still acting like he's stupid. Like, they're literally telling him, like, it's okay that you're not that intelligent, yada yada. What? Do you honestly think if I was just a pretty face, I would be this successful in my career? Or that what I'm doing is not like a real thing? Are you kidding me?
Yeah. They underestimate him so much. It makes me so sad, because I feel like it only adds to his fear and insecurities of pursuing what he actually wants to do. You know what I mean?
I love the scene when April stood up to her mom. It was like, you listen, act right or get cut off. I was like, yes.
Yeah.
I wanted to highlight this comment because I agree that I felt like the public declaration was a little bit odd. But at the same time, like, maybe they were just like, oh, well, people already have all those paparazzi pictures, so whatever. But I don't know, I felt like it was a little odd.
I think Marcus did it to set the record straight, because if you remember, April was talking about how people were saying, "Oh, he just dated her for this, and it was a publicity stunt, and them dating was a publicity stunt, and he could never be with the fat girl." And I think it was more like, I think it was a publicity stunt, more for the benefit of like setting people straight. Like, don't assume that because I'm, you know, conventionally attractive and my partner is, you know, not, that my feelings for her were incorrect. So let me do it in the most way that you cannot misconstrue at all, to show you all, and to show like the girl that was asking. He was saying that somebody could never look like me and love someone like him. I think that was more so for their benefit, like the people versus April.
Yeah, that makes sense too when you say that. But I agree with this comment, and I love this comment because so very true. Would you guys read another book by this author, specifically the second book? Who plans to read it? Because I definitely am going to. Like, I thought it wasn't out yet, so
it's not. I don't think. I think it was in like August, maybe.
I saw on Goodreads it said like October, but Goodreads
in
is
the fall.
So I was like,
well, it's coming out later this year. That's all that we need to know, and I'm so
we'll have
ready.
The Heart Principle in August, so we'll be able to get some good food at least.
Yeah, this makes sense. Yeah, no, I'm so excited because as soon as I saw the cover, I was like, I can't relate to the shortness, but I'm here.
I think I even like it more than this one. I love it.
Right, because Alex's character, I'm just so ready to see, because the entire time in this book, he was like, I can't stand her. She's so irritating. She's on my nerves. And so I felt like he was going to be the next, but I didn't know that this is a series. So it's like, are we going to get an Alex? Because you know, in romance books, you can feel who the next book is going to be about. You can just feel it as you're reading. So I was like, is it Alex?
Summer, I think, is going to be the third book. The girl.
I think so too. And I'm so ready for it. I'm so ready. Okay, do you guys have any final thoughts? If you want to plug anything that you're doing, you know, if you have a book club or you have any events you're doing anytime soon, go ahead and advertise yourselves. And then if anyone in the comments wants us to discuss anything else, or you have anything else that you want us to kind of go over, or any other thoughts, go ahead and share them while the co-hosts advertise themselves. And beside grabbing something, is it the TBR cart?
Girl, it's a TBR shelf now, just the whole thing. If you're into sci-fi, Mina and I, along with our friend Monty, are hosting a read-along for The Expanse by James S.A. Corey. Our live show for the first book is tomorrow. It's definitely still time enough to read it because it reads really, really quickly. But if not, you can always watch the live play because we're going to be reading from now until November, because the last book comes out in October. So if you're into good sci-fi, you like fast-paced adventure, this is also a show on Amazon Prime TV, something like that, whatever it's called. That's really good. So check this out if you're interested.
All right. Nobody else?
Nope.
Not me trying to drag out information. Okay. I guess we have one more thing to talk about. Any thoughts on the trash producers? None other than they were trash.
Yeah. Trash.
I'm like,
I wasn't surprised by that at all.
If y'all see me picking up Game of Thrones, no, you didn't.
I would love to hear your thoughts on Game of Thrones so much. Your commentary, I need you to vlog. You don't vlog what you need to vlog.
I will be definitely sending you personalized updates, Erin. But that is pretty much the end of everything we wanted to discuss. I feel like we talked about a lot of really good things because I was like, this is romance. What are we going to talk about besides loving the characters, hating them, things like that? But I definitely think romance is one of those genres that seemingly there's nothing to talk about, right? But there's so much. Like, romance is just so good. There's so many things that always come out in romance books. So I'm really excited to be possibly reading more with the book club in future. But thank you so much to everyone for joining us in this live show, and also for my co-host for joining me. Don't forget that in April we are reading Black Sun, so all the information for that will be on the book club socials. But yes, thank you again to everyone for joining. All the co-host stuff, like I mentioned, will be in the description as well as the Discord. So if you're not in that yet, go ahead and join that. But we will be back here for another live show in April or May, whenever the live show for Black Sun will be. But thank you again, everyone, and I'll see you next time. Bye.